This is part 2 of the Super Meat Boy Forever Random Seed Any Percent tutorial. If you haven't seen the first video in the series, go check it out to learn important information about movement, resources, and the first world, Chipper Grove. In this second video, we'll be covering the next two worlds, the Clinic and Tetanusville. Unlike Chipper Grove, the Clinic requires you to make routing decisions based on the cards you are dealt. Normally, you'll do levels 1, 3, 4, and 5 before the boss, but you'll actually check level 2 and adjust your route depending on what you see. This is the first introduction of a concept known as A+ time scouting. Based on the combined length of the randomly selected chunks in a level, the game generates the A+ time to shoot for. What this gives us is a way to estimate how long a level is without actually playing it. More on that in a minute. You'll start the Clinic by entering 2-1, which isn't a complicated level mechanically, but it will cause some pain in the beginning. The glass and needles kill you if you stay in them too long, and the timing can be pretty tight on some chunks. This level really tests your chunk recognition skills and quick dashing ability more than anything, so I highly recommend making this one of the first levels you practice with the special practice save file mentioned in the last video. Once you complete 2-1, you will actually continue on to 2-2 to see how long it is. We use an A+ time scouting method where you immediately exit a level so that the menu reveals the A+ time. You'll lose about a second compared to just going on to 2-3, but it is worth it for the extra information in this case to improve your odds of playing 4 fast levels. From here, a good rule of thumb is if you see a time around 50 seconds or under, re-enter 2-2 and play it like normal. If it is above 50, continue on to 2-3 and proceed with the normal 1-3-4-5 route. Back to 2-2, I won't say much about it. It is a difficult level because the fan mechanic is tricky. It is possible for the A+ time to get really low though, which is why we check it. One very important skip to recognize is this one, where by sliding up the crumble blocks, you can skip a very long chunk below. 2-3 is very simple and just requires learning the chunks. For routing concerns, when you enter the level, you must make a decision based on the A+ time and your 2-2 decision. If you enter 2-2 and your 2-3 A+ time is greater than 55 seconds, exit the level and go on to 2-4 with the plan of finishing the world with levels 4 and 5. Otherwise, just complete the level like normal. 2-4 is one of my favorite levels. For routing concerns, you'll generally always do this level due to its skip potential. 2-4 introduces a technique known as roof hopping or potential multi-chunk skips. Some chunks allow you to get on top of them, which lets you potentially jump to the roof of the next chunk and just quick dash past it. If you're lucky, this can chain for the rest of the level and save a bunch of time. The earlier in the level you get a roof hop chunk, the higher potential you have for a big time save if you can skip many chunks. However, setting up a roof hop is usually slower than completing the chunk, so if it doesn't lead to anything, it can be a time loss. I typically only go for roof hops that are in the first half of a level. Another mechanic in 2-4 is the ability to break glass from underneath, which opens up some skips. To do this, jump towards some glass from below and input a dive just as you touch the glass. The timing is kind of tricky, but you'll get the hang of it with practice. Now, on to the final level in the normal Clinic route, 2-5. This level requires you to punch a lot of ghosts, so you will be slowed by hit lag often. However, there is a trick to avoid it using multiple punch buttons again. See the first video about configuring your key bindings. If you hold down the button you punch the ghost with, you can pass through the same ghost as long as you are dashing. Since each ghost travels to 3 locations, you can use this to clip through any of the related ghosts. The way this works is to punch a ghost and continue holding that punch button. You can keep jumping and dashing using your other punch button. Holding the original button stores the ghost clip. While still holding the original punch button, use your second punch button to dash through the next ghost in the sequence. This has a lot of application in the level and will save you a lot of time reducing hit lag. Once you've beaten 4 of the levels, we move on to the boss. I'm going to teach you the 2 glass strategy. First, we go to the corner like normal. And then here, we punch the boss 8 times. It's important though, on the 8th hit, you continue to hold the punch button so that you dash through. And then input another dash. and then once you hit the ground, do a quick dash. This should give you enough time to jump over the wave, and also you'll only get 2 glass cycles rather than 3, and you will have gone very far over to the edge, making it much faster. Next up is Tetanusville. It has been nicknamed Resetville due to the possibility of very long deaths and level length variability that can derail your run. The route, like Clinic, requires some A+ time scouting. You'll do levels 1, 2, 5, and 6 usually, but if level 2 is really long, you'll do level 4 instead. 3-1 doesn't really have anything notable to discuss, just be careful of long deaths. There are a lot of long chunks that have easy places to die at the end, especially after big jumps. It is very important to avoid dying on this level. Upon entering 3-2, check the A+ time. If it is longer than 1:25, exit to the map and do 3-4 instead. Like 3-1, this level can give you a lot of long deaths at the end of chunks, so be careful. There are a couple roof hop chunks, but this one is very important to know because it is significantly faster than doing the chunk normally, even if it doesn't lead to anything. Because of how open the ceilings usually are in Tetanusville, roof hops are typically less rewarding than in Clinic in terms of skipping multiple chunks. If you skipped 3-2, you'll enter 3-4, which has the most difficult intro chunk skip. Most levels have one or more intro chunks that always spawn at the start of a level. In the intro chunk for 3-4, there is a pretty large but very difficult skip that saves around 2.5 seconds. To do this, slide down these crumble blocks like normal, and then dash into this container until about here. You want your foot to be just above the bolt on the bottom left of the container. Wall jump from this point, and then as soon as you touch this corner, immediately jump off of it. This skip is pretty risky and should only be attempted once you feel consistent with it. Dying here loses around 7 seconds. 3-4 also has an advanced technique known as blue container clipping, and it works very similarly to ghost clipping in Clinic. By punching a container and holding down the punch button, you can dash through the same container using another punch button. Additionally, if you release your dash while inside the container, you'll snap to whichever edge of the container is closer, letting you wall jump. One limitation to this technique is that you can only clip through containers that you've already punched and can move again. You can't clip through a container you wouldn't move with your punch. Next, you'll do 3-5, which is again fairly basic. A lot of the skips are very early on in the chunk, so fast chunk recognition is very important. This makes this level a good one to practice with the practice save file. Moving on. Finally, you'll enter 3-6, which has another intro chunk skip that is easier than the one in 3-4. Immediately jump and dash onto the laser platform, and then immediately jump and dash to escape the lasers. This skip saves about 2 seconds, and only loses 2 seconds if you die. 3-6 is a cycle-based level, and so practicing this to be able to recognize when you need to wait and when you need to go fast is very important. Once you've beaten 4 levels, you can move on to the Lab Guardian. I'm going to teach you 2 cycle strategies. For the first, you go up to the top like this, and then you punch this ball down to the first shield generator. And then you go back and do the same thing. And then go down here and hit the Lab Guardian 10 times. And then dive down. And then do the ball thing again. And then you can just go kill the Lab Guardian. And that's the first strategy. This next strategy is called Fancy Lab Guardian. Do this once you've mastered the last strategy. It's called Fancy because it looks cool, and the previous strat I showed you used to be called Fast Lab Guardian, so we needed a fancier name for this one. It is also a 2-cycle strategy, except you basically squeeze in half of the second cycle while you're completing the first. This can save close to 5 seconds. It starts the same way by going up here to hit the balls down into the shield generators. Except on the way back, you go up and then you dive punch the Lab Guardian 8 times. After the 8th hit, you dash through to the ball. You might get a 9th hit, but that's okay. You punch this ball down, and then on the way down, you dive so that the shield generator hits the ball. And then after you dive punch this, immediately quick dash, and that manipulates the ball to go high. Once you do that, it'll hit the shield generator, and then you can just go kill the Lab Guardian. Here that is again in full speed. There was a lot of information in this video, but you're doing great, you're almost done. In the next and final video in this series, I'll be covering the tricks in the last 2 chapters and the final boss. One more video and you'll have all the tools you need. See you there.